This episode of Straight Outta Health IT is brought to you by WellLink, your trusted partner connecting healthcare organizations, data, and innovation for a healthier community. WellLink helps healthcare providers navigate complex challenges, from analytics and AI to workforce solutions and community health impact. Because at WellLink, we believe when healthcare is connected, everyone thrives. Learn more at welllinkcommunity.com.
Straight out of health IT, the mic stays surgical. Christopher Cunny moves vertical, purposeful. Strategist with the vision, breaking every system's cage. Guests unfiltered, flipping chapters every page. Industry talk raw, no sugar, no varnish. From policies to tech, the convo ain't tarnished. Blueprints unfold, the future in the dialogue. Cutting through the static sharp like a monologue. Change makers in the building.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Straight Outta Health IT. I am your host, Christopher Cunny, and today I wanted to talk to you about something a lot of our healthcare leaders either don't want to admit out loud or really kind of refusing to some degree to turn a blind eye to. And that is, we're burning through some of the most talented, most mission-driven people in our industry today. And we're calling it the nature of the work. And so clinicians, administrators, IT leaders, health equity advocates, people who came into this field because they are actually genuinely caring about the people that they serve are now leaving. They're burning out, they're checking out, or worse, they're staying in that seat, but they're completely empty inside. And we keep throwing the same solutions at them. Resiliency training, wellness apps, yoga classes in the break room. But the real problem is not just a lack of resources. What the real problem is what we completely lost, and that's the ability to slow down long enough to hear ourselves think. And today we're going to talk about this in a little more in-depth, and I have an amazing individual who specializes in helping us refocus, regroup, and clear our heads and get our mindsets back in a very balanced way. And so, on this show, we talk a lot about digital transformation and health equity and such, but this is a conversation I think is just as equally, if not more equally important than any of those things. And that is, how do we stay grounded and how do we stay clear? So I would like to introduce to you now my guest, Bemene Piaro. Again, Bemene Piaro. She is a ICF certified transformation life coach and founder of the Wholeness Center. Bemene helps individuals and organizations slow down, reconnect to what actually matters, and turns reflection into clear next steps through coaching, visioning, mindfulness-based practices. And she's been hosting an annual visioning retreat since 2022. And she works with healthcare professionals in the workplace on workplace wellness and visioning. So thank you, Bemene, for taking time out of your very busy schedule to come and spend some time with us on Straight Outta Health IT and help us get more grounded and more clear, more refocused today.
Thank you, Christopher. I'm so happy to be here.
So happy to have you as well. And before we jump into the meat and potatoes of this conversation, I always like the guests to take just a few minutes and share a little bit about their own personal stories, their journey, and what got them into the role that they're pursuing today. And how did this passion of yours around, helping us refocus and get grounded again, what drove you to move down this path as a career?
Thank you. Oh my. Okay. Well, I would say maybe the through.
A lot unpacked there, huh?
Oh, my passion. No, I love that framing of it. Like, yes. What is the through line that brought me here today? And I will actually say the through line for me is probably service. And a little bit about me and my background. I lovingly refer to myself as a third culture kid. And what I mean by that is by the time I was 11 years old, I lived in 3 different countries, the third of which is the United States and where I've lived the longest. And I came here as a refugee with my father. And so I had the opportunity to witness inequity and injustice, right? Environmental inequity and economic inequity. But I also had the opportunity to witness people advocating and standing up for themselves and their community and suffering the consequences, which is displacement. And it just so happens that those consequences were balanced off by us being able to have a great community around us and support around us here within the United States that helped me to be where I am today. So that has really kind of driven what pulls my interest. And probably just starting so early in so many different countries have really made me a very curious person. I love to travel. I've been to 26 countries. But I also treat, I think, my professional life in a similar way. I go where I feel called to next. So I've been in kind of many different fields. So, and some of those, but there is a thread. So some of those have been public health. I worked as an epidemiologist and health educator, and outreach and engagement person for a while. And then I shifted into healthy relationship education research. And in that process, we were still focused on serving children. We were focused on teaching couples and co-parents who have children in the social welfare system learn how to communicate better with each other and to strengthen their relationships so that their children could be home longer, right? And that really, I love that. I learned so much about relationships that I didn't learn from my single father who was busy trying to make life, make sure we have food in this country. And then now, and then after that, I actually moved on to working at a nonprofit in the DC area. So now I'm in the DMV that was very much focused on helping children move out of poverty by strengthening the nonprofits and the nonprofit leaders who create the programs that help kids like me, help kids get to college, help kids, have things to do after school so they weren't getting in trouble, help teach kids skills. So there's just always been a thread along with like equity and diversity and just service that has pulled me into the things that I do. And I discovered coaching in all of that when I myself was going through some transitional times. As I say, I like to switch careers a lot, but I was also dealing with the loss of...
to find that passion, right? The thing that you're really
following that passion.
Absolutely.
But also dealing with the loss of my father, who, as you can imagine, meant a lot to me.
Absolutely.
I was introduced to coaching as a recipient, and I really saw how it helped me be able to hear my own voice again, and be able to really, it's just bring me so much peace, but also just bring me so much into myself and into my agency and courage and authenticity, so that I felt very much in the driver's seat of my life. Maybe for the first time ever, right? So for the first time ever, I wasn't just checking boxes. I was feeling really good and feeling like I really could do anything. And so that passion is what actually led me here many, many years after that. But then I went to coaching school and I love it. And so this is now what I do.
That's great. That's great. Well, what a wonderful story and a wonderful journey, and taking all that life experience and now leveraging that in the role you're in today, and helping others based on your own personal experience as well, too. So thanks for being transparent and sharing that story with us. So I want to jump into the conversation itself. And I want to start with something I think that every healthcare leader is experiencing today, but what few will actually admit, and that is decision fatigue and feeling overwhelmed, especially in this day and time with all the pressures that exist on healthcare leaders and healthcare professionals. We all are struggling right now, trying to keep our heads above water, trying to manage, all the chaos that's taking place in our communities today, and just trying to survive. We're all kind of, to some degree, in survival mode. And I'm not just talking about, I had a busy week, or I'm tired. Now, it's not that kind of physical exhaustion, but it's exhaustion where capable people just kind of stop. They feel stuck. They can't move. they actually don't know what to do. So what's actually happening there? Well, I mean, have you seen that, with the folks you're coaching today? And if so, what's happening? What's causing us to get to this place?
Yeah, I think that is actually a lot of the time how people end up in coaching or
right.
Why they start coaching in the first place is that they're feeling that stuckness, that overwhelm, and they're not really clear about what to do next. And
sure.
And they're in survival mode. And the question of what is happening, I think underneath all of it, what is really happening in the moment is that people have kind of really lost track of what matters to them, what matters in this, they've lost sight of kind of why or who or where they were going with what it is that they are doing. And when there is so much happening all at once, you feel like you're constantly having to make all these decisions in the moment, you lose energy, right?
Absolutely. And I do think there's, to some degree, a culture that rewards this kind of relentlessness that, it's almost a badge of honor around being exhausted, that, I don't have enough time to do this or that. I'm so busy. This issue around fatigue, and people are saying that, here, see how hard I'm working, or recognize how hard I'm working. And somehow, again, that's a measure of, my success, or an expectation that that's what I'm supposed to be doing, is wearing myself out. Sometimes not just for weeks, but for years. I'm just, wondering, what does this look like clinically, or practically, and for someone from a day-to-day perspective, whether they're in leadership or just a staff member as well.
Yeah. I'll speak to practically. I would say coaching, I don't often we don't deal with clinically, right?
Sure.
That would be more of a therapist. I would say practically on the individual level, right? Like we're talking about like systems here and things that sometimes may feel out of people's control. I will say one thing you just named that I really appreciated is the idea of not valuing this idea of being busy and being fatigued is the way that I am supposed to be. And that shows that what I do is important. I think maybe once someone has chosen that, okay, this is not, in fact, how I want to be and how I want to feel, that's when we can start to really do something about it. 'Cause then we could talk about, okay, what is it that you want to feel and how do we get there? But in terms of like, and practically, what do we do that can really help us with this? Well, that is really exactly what coaching is supposed to do. Coaching is a space in which we ask you questions to try to understand what is most important to you and what it is that all the things that you're pursuing, what is it that you actually are trying to achieve? What is it that what do you gain from it? What is the reward?
Right, exactly.
That is the thing that keeps you motivated to do this, right? And so like getting essentially connected with that broader, more impactful vision can, one, really help you to get out of the tiny details and step back and be able to cut through the noise, so to speak, and make decisions that will get you there maybe more directly, more easily, or more authentically, like
absolutely
in alignment with like who you are and how you want to get there.
Yeah, makes sense. I like that powerful kind of reframe of that as well, too. And you may have actually kind of answered this follow-up question, and that is, when you're working with someone in this state, what's one of the first things you do? I mean, because I know, at least from my perspective, the instinct for me is to hand me a to-do list and an action plan, and kind of figure out you need to go do these steps A, B, and C, but I'm guessing that's probably not your approach to this as well, too. So maybe you can help us understand, how do you, first of all, get us to not to fall into those traditional ways of what we believe is how we resolve issues, especially when they come to issues of self.
Yeah. So in a coaching session, we'll get to an action plan.
Right. Okay.
That is true. But it's not an action plan necessarily in terms of a to-do list, right?
Sure.
We spend like 90% of a coaching session just understanding what the challenge is as you see it, what it is that so we understand where it is you are now, where it is you want to get to.
Exactly.
Like I said, what is important to you about getting there? And,
that's right.
But we're also digging deeper. We're trying to understand what is it that you believe? What is it that you think is reality? And I think about it in this way. It's like we're all somewhat creative directors of our own experiences. So same things happen to different people and they see it differently. And so if someone can understand, hey, what is the viewpoint, the lens through which I am seeing this situation? Is it positive or is it a negative lens? If it's a negative lens, what is this lens?
That's right.
Then we can think about how do we flip it? How do we get to the opposite side of that, or the feeling we want to have? And that, and once we get to that clarity of what we want, what does the world look like from that point of view?
Sure.
Right? What am I doing differently? How am I doing differently?
Yeah. And that takes a lot of courage, right? For someone to be self-reflective. And one, I think, at least from my perspective, and now this is probably a coaching session for me. What are those things that trigger us to continue to operate in that mindset and that mode? And, and how do we start to break that cycle, especially in a culture that really treats, being busy and active as a virtue, as a badge, like I said earlier, kind of as a badge of honor.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. And I hear what you say about taking courage. So my thinking about that is, it helps when you do it in community, which is a big part of why I do offerings the way I do it, because you get to hear and see other people, know that your experience is not unique in a good way. Like you're not the only one experiencing this or thinking about it this way. You actually start to hear different solutions at this, but it's here. It kind of creates a little bit of a distance, so you can just think about it and apply what applies and leave that behind. So that's one way where that community container can start to help with the courage.
Right.
I also find, at least for me, that now being in the experience of reflexive practices, right? Like where regularly thinking about and myself and my perspective on things is normal to me. It's a joy. It's actually really nice to be able to think about, to be in a negative space and be able to think, how else could I be looking at this right now?
Sure. Yeah. And I think we get caught up sometimes, again, speaking about me personally, this whole self-sacrifice concept, focusing on everyone else's needs and priorities and not saying what's important for me and what do I need at this point in my life till I have balance and some peace and some sense of sort of looking for serenity, I guess, at the end of the day. I do feel like I'm often called and pulled in a lot of different directions, and it's really, really hard for me to say no to people when I get asked to do things. And so, and before I know it, my calendar is completely booked with doing 95% of things for everyone else and only 5% of things I need to get done for myself. And so I like that because I think what I hear is being more intentional about that and not just kind of responding to the day, but choosing how I want to kind of meet that day as well too. Is that good, Doc?
You're getting it so perfectly. And I might be getting a little bit ahead here, but
no, please. Help me.
This is what I think of as like value-based decision making, right?
Sure.
In leadership, right? Like it's you knowing what those core values, or you've named them, right? Serenity or whatever else is that you kind of want to experience. And those around you to experience as well. And then letting that guide how you structure your day and in your decision making. I have this supervisor in one of my formal roles, and she used to say something to this effect. I can't remember her exact words, but it was essentially to the effect of, your lack of planning does not lead to an emergency on my end. That was the routine. That was the routine, right? Exactly. And she's like, okay, we planned everything in advance. And it was, so it's like, when things were due and everything else. And does that mean people always met deadlines? No, but she did what she could to help that, right? Like she created that culture of planning, and then she used systems to schedule the reminders so that she didn't have to do it always. And she would call you when she needed to do. But if you missed all of that, when it was time and you had that thing that you needed her for and she has something else to do, it's like, well, I have something else right now. Maybe I'll be able to help you later, and maybe I will. Exactly. But the point is that when we have our values or guiding our decisions, then there's not as much guilt when we set our boundaries. Right? Because we feel aligned. Yeah.
Right. Makes sense. And so, I really want to make this really practical for our listeners. We've got CIOs and CNOs and health equity leaders and nurses and doctors that, many people within the healthcare community who from time to time tune in and listen to this program. Got kind of a simple daily practice that can actually shift a perspective, and I mean something simple, not something that's, if you can, maybe this is a lot harder than I'm making it out to be, but, kind of not a 90-minute routine in the morning where I just don't have 90 minutes to sit here and reflect on life, but something that is really real and really practical and something I can get done in the course of me getting prepared for my day.
Oh, okay. I can give you something for that. And I can give you something that you can literally use in the moment while.
Perfect. Now I don't want to steal all your secret sauce because,
it's okay. There are so many of these and I want people to have them, right? Like, so, and they're coaching tools, but they're also just tools, right? So let's start with a simple one you can use at any point. You can use it. You can use any of this really at any point. You can use this in the beginning of your day. You can use it in the middle of your day. You can use it in the moment when you're feeling the disappointment or overwhelm or stress or anything else, right?
Exactly.
It's simple. It's a gratitude list.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep. You've heard people say the attitude of gratitude, and that is not a lie, right? Like when we focus on what we are grateful for, we actually in the moment shift our perspectives. We shift from the negative mindset to the positive mindset already. We start to remember what is abundant already for us. And it just gives us that pause that we need to get out of the kind of what is the word I'm looking for? That where you're automatically like you're on this spiral, so that you can
or being hypercritical or hyper on defense or exactly.
Yeah, so that you can connect more with your own resourcefulness. And then maybe you can actually then say, hey, what do I actually want to do in this moment? Like even just asking yourself that question, right? Like giving yourself that opportunity to answer that question. So when I say gratitude list, what do I mean? I mean, what is something that I'm grateful for today? Or what is something I'm grateful for this week? 3 things, 3 to 5 things. Write it down.
Okay. That's simple. Yeah. Sometimes the simplest stuff can be the hardest stuff, but I think to your point, I think I do this to some degree subconsciously as well too. I don't know if I always do it in the moment, but I have been taught at times throughout my life's journey where I'm in a place that I'm not comfortable being in and I want to get out of it. I do that reflection and say, what am I grateful for? I'm grateful for, being able to get up in the morning and being healthy. The fact that I've got a roof over my head and food on my table. I have, a job, I have loved ones that care for me. I do that on occasion as well to help me get in a better space. And to your point, it does help. And so I didn't even realize that consciously I was performing it.
You're shifting your own perspective.
You can do it more often.
Yeah. And I
always feel that way.
I mean, like, right. It's a joyful moment. And I will say too, though, there is this piece about, so yes, let's interrupt, let's get in the positive frame of mind. But there is this piece about what I'm also trying to say about creating the pause is like, now that you have a pause, ask yourself, like, okay, if I'm trying to figure out what to do with 1,000 different things, just breathe for a moment.
Sure.
One thing, only one thing. What's the one thing I want to do?
Then focus on that.
and just focus on that. You don't have to do all the 5 hours. You can only do one.
At time anyway.
At a time.
Anyway.
What is that one thing, right?
Absolutely.
And it may be that this is the one thing that my body needs right now. Or it may be it may be that really is the question, what do I need right now?
Sure.
And just letting yourself hear that. Because when you do that, you'll be more likely to, maybe you come back later more refreshed to doing whatever else you needed to do if what you needed right now was rest and break or, a drink of water.
Yes, stepping away from it sometimes, I think. I know I find myself, because I work virtually a lot, and when I'm not on client sites and at conferences or at other events, and I find myself sometimes having to tell myself to step back and take a break, go outside, get some sun, clear your head. There's too much rolling around in this empty thing on top of your skull, on your neck, and and you feel like you're on a hamster wheel, not getting anything accomplished. So I hopefully that's a tool I can use that makes sense as well too. But I know that's one of my coping mechanisms as well.
Can I add one more?
Yes, no, please. I need that. Please give me more tools.
So I love that you mentioned going outside, getting some sun, getting a walking, all of the physical stuff. I really love that, stepping away. If you can't step away, you are naming being at conferences and being at all these things. Sometimes even if you are still in the room, taking a moment, or by yourself or in public, but taking a moment to kind of reconnect with your body, with your physical being, can be so grounding.
Sure.
And so if you're in a public space, maybe it's just taking a deep breath and just in your mind, just trying to notice sensations in your body.
Right.
Just notice, where you're holding tension, in your shoulders, in your jaw, in your, in your head, wherever. Just actually letting the sensations be experienced rather than just this background noise.
Exactly.
Can help ground you and help you even feel a little bit more refreshed.
Sure.
And if you have the space to do something a little bit more, so like if it's in your morning, then you only need even like 2 minutes, 5 minutes. The longer you do it, the better you feel. But then you can do what I call a full body scan.
Okay.
Right.
Nice. You want to expound on that, or that's something?
Sure. I'm not your guide. We can do it. We can do it. Your listeners can do it with us if they want.
Yes. Let's hold off on that one, because we'll have to bring you back maybe on the next episode to go into more in-depth. But we only have, unfortunately, 30 minutes, and we're getting close to that as well too. But I like the idea of the full body scan. So let's table that for another episode. I do want to jump into, obviously, the title of my podcast is Straight Outta Health IT, and I'd be remiss if we didn't kind of touch on technology to some degree. And I'm just curious, let's talk about something I think is kind of particularly relevant in healthcare right now, and that's obviously health IT. And we're talking about the enormous pressure that is bringing now into our environment. Everyone's talking about AI and machine learning and how that's going to affect the workforce, and the shortages we have in the workforce today, and obviously equity imperatives associated with leveraging these technologies. And do we have policies in place to govern the use of these things going forward? Now, how does someone stay connected to their values when they got all these demands kind of chomping at their feet that they're trying to navigate around these emerging types of innovations that are happening in our space? Does that make sense? Does the question make sense?
Yeah. How do you stay connected or grounded to your values in the world of AI and everything?
Yeah.
I will answer that. I do want to just say, I literally spoke with someone today who this was their fear. They were like, "Hey, I work in consulting in a field where I'm hearing that people are getting fired and AI cannot do this, and this is something that they wanted to be coached on because and I will say the main thing, in that situation, that we ended up really needing to address is the fear, right? The fear that is coming from the news, all that is happening, is that there is not this sense of fear, or this sense of like, I am going to lose my job. I'm not.
Right.
So really what we really focused on was helping them move past fear and reconnect with their own resourcefulness and their own sense of, I'm actually going to be okay. I have skills and talents, and I have actually reinvented myself before, and I can do it again if need be. And then to just to think about, okay, well, what would I actually want to do? Right? What do I enjoy? What would I take forward with me from the experience that I've had, and what would I do differently? So, and that is a very different thing too, or similar, different, connected to how do I uphold my values? Because there's some value-based things around AI and AI use, right? Like AI, you can use AI in coaching, right? And people, and people do. And I will say, I don't discourage using it as a tool to like research and get information. And, like oftentimes people would be stuck because they don't actually know, they haven't done the research, they don't know. So they're afraid of this like kind of just idea out there.
Right. This black box thing that's going on is taking over the world. Yeah.
And now they can actually do some research and ask some questions and AI helps with that.
Can be good at that too. To your point,
can be good at that.
It can be a great tool, and I think to your point, reinventing yourself, I think it's an interesting perspective as well. And I too have always been kind of, as I think about the number of roles that I've had throughout my career, I've always reinvented myself based on where the industry was, or hey, I got laid off, or I didn't like what I was doing, I wanted to go in a different direction. Even now with AI, I'm very involved in it as an IT advisor and such. I'm taking a course right now, a 7-month AI and machine learning course, just because I want to get even more knowledgeable about the technology, the nuts and bolts behind it, and how I can be a better advisor and resource to my clients, because I have a broader and more in-depth understanding of the technology in and of itself. So yeah, I don't see quote unquote AI as a threat. I do see it as a tool, a utility that I can leverage to help me be a better advisor, a better consultant, a better IT leader through the use of these technologies. And I think that's an important way to approach it as well too. We can be a steward of it, or we can be a casualty of it. You make the decision.
Exactly. Yeah. Well said.
Thank you. I do want to kind of turn our attention to this concept of visioning, because this is something that, you're actually known for, and you've been running kind of these annual visioning retreats for 4 or 5 years now. And I want to kind of deconstruct that a little bit, because I think of the word visioning can sometimes feel kind of woo-woo to hard driving healthcare executives. That's kind of soft stuff. I mean,
you don't do woo-woo.
Right. I don't want woo-woo in my life. Right? I need some meat and potatoes. And so help us understand from your perspective, what is visioning, and practically speaking, why does it really matter?
Yeah. Well, visioning, I was going to say visioning is not woo-woo. I don't mind woo-woo. But
good. Help me embrace woo-woo.
Embrace it. People and individuals and teams have used visioning forever. Visioning just simply means getting a picture of the future, where you're going, the outcome, the goal, whatever it is that people are going towards. So your team is going somewhere. Where are we going? Right. And so I think people are at least used to using it in that sense, right? Like we all come together and we brainstorm or whatever it is, and we get a picture of, and we end up with something we take away that is like, hey, this is what everyone is not aligned doing. It's just that you can do that with yourself, for yourself. You can envision your life, your future, your next year, your next quarter for yourself. And I would say what's different about the way that I do it than maybe what I just described is that rather than starting with, I'm not really starting with brainstorming. It's not really about brainstorming. It's actually about connecting you with your body, getting people to relax and rest and connect with their intuition so that when they're answering the question, what do I want for my next chapter, my next best self, they're answering that from a heart space of what they want and not what they've done in the past or per se, or what their numbers tell them is possible, that you're actually answering what they want. But I do guide people to reflect. I just guide them to reflect so that they can take away lessons in terms of like understanding themselves, like what are they celebrating and what brought them joy, and maybe what, and helping them shift past that idea of failure by looking at, okay, well, what didn't go well, but what gifts did you gain from that? So talk to stay there.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about what goes on in your visioning, quote, woo-woo retreats, and what does that really look like for a group of healthcare professionals?
A visioning retreat can be tailored to the people. So it can be, when I do it, and individuals come to do it with my company, it's a full day thing. But I've done it for a workplace where they wanted to do it in 2 hours. So we did that. And we've done the 45-minute.
So it can be customized based on.
Customized. The difference is a full day, you're getting much more time to just be and rest, to talking about the things we've talked about earlier, to just create an actual pause, to get out of the hamster wheel and just be human for a longer period of time, so that you can, if you think about you've ever been trying to figure out something so hard and you never can, and then you are sleeping or taking a shower and you're super relaxed and the answers just come to you. We want to try to get you to that relaxed state so that you can get to your answer. But what happens in it, whether it's short or long, is we're getting you to relax. We're getting you to reflect on your past, and then to visualize, not imagine or make up, but to like ask yourself and allow the answers to come to you. And I guide that. Your like next step. So like, what do you want? What do you want to be the case? What would you like to commit to? And that could be like, what does self-care look like? That could be like, what does your work day, like, what are you going to prioritize or hold on to? And what are you not going to take along with you anymore? Those kind of things. In my retreat, we end with a vision board. You do make a vision board. You put images and pictures and words and reminders together that you then put somewhere visible for you to come back to. And I teach people ways to activate that throughout the year.
Absolutely. And so I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, does this kind of lead into this concept of rhythm, and what that really means? And is this something that is, because I think it's something that's really undervalued in how we think about that from a perspective of performance and sustainability. And I know you talk about kind of these monthly reflections and quarterly reviews and annual visiting. Why is this, kind of this specific cadence or structure? Why does that really matter? Or does it matter? I guess first.
Yeah, I think the rhythm and cadence is exactly it. If you think about it this way, I mean, I'm not an IT person, so I'm getting this analogy wrong. I apologize. But I think of it as like putting together a system, right? That just, or rituals that kind of make certain things become habitual or normalized. Right. Makes sense. So it's that idea. But specifically what I'm doing with the specific offerings that I'm having is I'm really helping people to get out of the constant busyness and get into a more intentional way of living, right? So when you create your vision board for the year, you've said, hey, this is what this year is going to look like. This is what I'm going to work towards. And in the monthly group coaching. So whether you're in group coaching or you get individual coaching, the point is you have a space to come back and get past, kind of work through some of the challenges that come up as you're going intentionally towards that vision, towards that goal.
Yes,
Right.
makes sense.
And then, so that's what the monthly stuff accomplishes at a group level. And then quarterly is just this seasonal transition. We all know that there are transitions happening in our environment, right? Like, is it getting colder, hotter, whatever those shifts are happening, but it's also happening in our bodies. So it's just tapping into that and also using that to reflect, okay, where am I? So far as my intentions are going, have I drifted very far away from it?
Sure.
What do I still want to take with me? What am I ready to set down? Because, it's not actually what I thought I wanted. And I don't want it anymore. And this is not what I'm going to, but just having that space to, again, be intentional to see can help us release any kind of guilt we're holding on to, can also help bring us back to what we find most important so that we're not just running around. We're really intentionally making decisions that are taking us towards the life we want to have.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's, and I like the analogy from an IT perspective. I think it's kind of very relevant to see that from a kind of a healthcare technology and implementation perspective, and often, when you look at implementations that have failed, for example, you have to think about the people, process, and technology components of that, or do we have sound strategies in place that we could have put in place to help us prevent the failures from happening? Do we need to provide other types of, whether it's training or investment in other parts of our technology infrastructure to support what's going on? And I think the same is true with us mentally. And it's a body, mind, and soul component to who we are as human beings, right? And looking at that from those different lenses, I think it's, is important too. I don't know if you have any thoughts or comments on that analogy or that perspective.
Yeah, actually, I love that you said body, mind, and soul very specifically, because I think we tend to live too much in our minds always. We feel the pain in our body. We feel the stress in our body. But what I really love to emphasize more is for people to make that connection to get the communication that their body is giving to them. Right. Like if I'm having a feeling, emotional feeling, if I train my mind and pay attention, I can probably notice those same feelings on my physical being.
Absolutely.
And similarly, if I breathe or relax my body, that's going to help me also improve or feel better mentally.
Absolutely.
And so it is a body, mind, and everything connection. So I think, yes, like we do work and our mind is there, but our body and our emotions are there too. And they have wisdom to give us. And so I really love just adding that in there into that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's all a system, right? And it all works together, and each piece of it, can have a direct impact on the other, also. So I mean, I could talk to you for the next hour, or more about all of these different things and break down and go through the full, complete check and all of that. But unfortunately, we don't have much more time here. But as we come to a close, Bemene, on this conversation, I wanted to kind of give you the floor. If you can say one thing to healthcare leaders, IT executives, professionals in this space, or advocates who are listening to us right now, who are running hard, on that hamster wheel, and they're just running hard and trying to figure out, am I making a difference? I'm now starting to question my abilities, and I'm also afraid of all of the innovation that's coming that might displace me, or, I'm hitting a critical point in my career and my age, and am I going to continue to be seen as relevant? And those, but I'm still doing what I believe is important work, and I'm still being passionate about my mission. So they're sitting there quietly contemplating those things and privately, and they're slowly running out of steam as a part of this, reflection, I guess, for lack of a better term. What would you say to them right now? I mean, what would you tell them that would help them just look differently at life and look differently at their situation?
Yeah. Oh man, everything you described. I'm just like,
Because that's me.
I guess what I would say, well, first of all, what I would say is to the people who support this healthcare professionals, that it's important to invest in your people. It is important to yoga is great, but it's important to actually give people space and time to have these conversations, to have to bring things in that allows people to breathe and talk about this with each other and get resources and information. And that may mean getting coaching for your employees so that they have that space to go talk through this thing and work out and figure out how they can be about their work life differently. Because when people thrive, your company thrives also.
Absolutely.
You're your greatest resource. And then what I would say to that individual, it's really kind of hard to just say, something that would be a quick fix, right? Like if it's something that has been ruminating, has been happening, it's probably best to sit with someone and have a few sessions to get some answers for yourself, because the answers come from you. But in a guided conversation where we're not just going around in circles about the problem, but we're working towards, well, what do we actually want?
Absolutely.
Actually want to shift. But in terms of like a helpful practice that maybe you could use, if you're having a lot of questions about, okay, well, what next? Or like, how do I address all of this? I know it sounds so cliche, but just, having a place to jot down your thoughts, to breathe and write down, hey, here is what I'm feeling now. Here is actually what's happening, what has happened. Maybe something has happened that triggered this. Here's the story I'm telling myself, right? And then, because sometimes the story we're telling ourselves about what's happened is different from the actual fact of what is happening. And then maybe, what would I like to feel? What would I like to think instead? Answer that question. Right? Like that's easier than like, I just feel and think this way. You're not there yet. That's fine. But what would I like to feel? What would I like to think? And then maybe you can tell yourself that, hey, I'm practicing feeling this way. I'm gonna get to feeling this way. I'm going towards feeling this way. And those kind of things.
Makes perfect sense. So those who are listening, I call them my tribe. My tribe. That's I want you to notice a couple of things are key concepts that came out of what she said. We just spent the past 30, 40 minutes or so talking about slowing down, about clarity, kind of about values, what it means to lead from wholeness. And I'd be willing to bet that for a lot of you, this feels like a little bit like a luxury, like something for someone else, someone who has more time, more bandwidth, more permission. But I want to challenge you, and I'm talking to myself too, Christopher. I want to challenge you, Christopher, directly, and my tribe, that the work Bemene is describing is not a luxury. It is in our system, that healthcare system, that we are asking everything from everybody who's a part of it, who power it. This work is the infrastructure, right? It's essential, just like the EHR is, the AI technology, all the tools that they're using to help take care of people. Without whole people, none of the rest of it really works. So, Bemene, I want to personally thank you so very much for my counseling session today. And hopefully the counseling session for others who are listening as well. This is important work that you're doing. Thank you for reminding all of us that the revolution we need in healthcare might just start with the 2 minutes of silence we need for ourselves. If someone is interested in connecting with you and learning more about your programs or seeking support from you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Right now, the best way is I am on LinkedIn, Bemene Piaro. The Wholeness Center is on LinkedIn as the Wholeness Center as well. Those are great ways to connect with me, and I'll provide you with my website as well. But it's thewholenesscenterva.com.
Wonderful. Well, we're going to have to leave it there for now. I would love to have you back and delve into some of these concepts a little bit more and get an update on what's going on in your world in the future as well, too. And I want to thank all the listeners, my tribe, again, for tuning in and supporting this program. Please like and share this episode if you found it of value. Like I always say, please share it with your friends, your colleagues, your family members, even those who don't care that much about, because we can all benefit from Bemene's wisdom, her knowledge, her expertise in making us all better human beings. So until next time, please take this opportunity to step back, clear your head, clear your mind, clarify your needs, count your blessings, and continue to be straight out of health IT. Take care and God bless.
Where the talk stay free, tune in, turn up, this is where you want to be. Data-driven dreams, they decode the code, hack the status quo, make the old ways implode. Gusts dropping gems like pockets of gold mines. Healthcare's front lines, redesigned in real time. Honey got the mic, architect of the chatter. Revolutions in the air, healthcare's new chapter. From telehealth to equity, nothing stays unseen. This is more than a podcast, it's the dream machine. The system's pulse is beating to the sound, voices of change.